Hi, Seleta.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Very happy to have you. We have a very intensive day, and on your side in Los Angeles, you have a lot of challenges around mobility. Can you share with us your main focus for the rest of the year and for the months to come?
Yeah, I mean, I think when most people think about Los Angeles, the first thing that pops into their minds is traffic, maybe celebrities or beaches, Kim Kardashian. But really, Los Angeles is known for being the creative capital of the world, but also being the car capital of the world. And when I arrived here 6 years ago, what I expected to find was a city very much in love with the automobile. And I did find that, but I also found that there are millions of people in this region who rely on other ways of getting around. And so my challenge from the beginning has been, how do I make sure that no matter how you travel, no matter where you were born, no matter what neighborhood you live in, you have access to opportunities, to education, to jobs, that you can do the things you need to do in your life without transportation being a barrier. So if you are a single mother who wants to take a class at night, but you don't own a car, you're not going to feel comfortable waiting at a bus stop after dark for a long period of time. Taking that approach and thinking carefully about the individuals who use the system, and in particular, the ones who have been left behind, is one of our biggest challenges. The way that American cities were laid out when under the Eisenhower administration in the 60s, we laid out the freeway system. Freeways went right into the middle of cities. They cut right through the heart of mostly low-income Black and brown communities. And those were intentionally racist decisions that left a legacy of those same communities being trapped and kept away from opportunity. So for me, transportation is very much the place where we need to both take responsibility for those decisions, take ownership of their consequences, and do everything we can in a very focused way to try and close that gap. In Los Angeles, you can reach about 12 times as many jobs in an hour by car that you can in an hour by transit. And we've come up with this idea called universal basic mobility, which aims to close that gap. So whether you own a car or you don't, transportation and the services we provide really ought to be the ladder that you have to do all of the things that you need to do in your life. And that requires a whole host of approaches to meet those challenges. Some of the outcomes that we see today, which are part of those challenges, relate directly to climate. Transportation is one of the leading causes of emissions in the state of California. And even though half of the electric cars in this country are bought by Californians, we've seen tailpipe emissions rise 5% over the last 5 years. So we know that emissions and climate is a necessary piece of any challenge that we tackle, but we'll never tackle climate in a meaningful way if we do not address inequity.
A lot of challenges. We can see this. Can you share with us some, some ideas on some tests, on some, initiative you took, around digital, smart, to help, Angelinos to have a better daily life in Los Angeles?
Yeah. So we put out a piece of work called Urban Mobility in a Digital Age several years ago, and it laid out these sort of five platforms for us to begin to address sort of the digital transformation that was coming to transportation, that had arrived in transportation, just like it has arrived everywhere else. And we did that through a lens of not wanting to do innovation for innovation's sake, not wanting to double down on technology just because we could, but to focus on those kinds of technologies that could solve real problems, the problems that I just laid out, problems of inequity, problems of climate, problems of safety. The number one cause of death for kids in LA County under the age of 14 are traffic crashes. So we wanted to really take an approach that the public sector and departments of transportation needed to embrace the digital age. But on the public sector side, we wanted to do it with a long game view that was focused keenly on technologies that solve problems. So there were successes and failures that came out of that work and continue to grow out of that work. A couple that I'll highlight are first our Eevee car sharing program called Blue LA, which was done through a public-private partnership and funded through cap and trade dollars through the California Air Resources Board, where we placed Eevee cars specifically in low-income communities and allowed community-based organizations and an advisory committee to sort of set the rules of the game, to make sure that the services we were providing were both clean and easy to use, but also directly addressed the needs of the people who live in MacArthur Park and East Hollywood, some of the lowest income neighborhoods that we have in the city. So that was one. And another is micromobility. So Los Angeles has had at its peak over 50,000 registered electric scooters and bikes in the city. And what we wanted to do was to bring forward a new way of getting around. And we didn't want to put our thumb on the scales. We didn't want to limit the number of companies that could come to Los Angeles. This is one of the largest markets in the world. And we wanted to make sure that anybody who wanted to be in LA could be in LA. And so we devised a system called the Mobility Data Specifications, which allow us to sort of regulate those companies at scale. Because in order to do anything in Los Angeles and have it be effective, you have to do it on a large scale. So those are some of the things that were the successes. Some of the places where we had challenges were really around mobility as a service. So we had worked together with our partners at Xerox to put together an app called Go LA, where you could book and pay for trips in the palm of your hand across a variety of public and private providers. And the challenges for us were really twofold. One is we just didn't have that many. We didn't have quite enough, a robust enough system yet for there to be a need to aggregate all of those choices in one app. And then the second challenge we faced was one of adoption. So we just couldn't overcome the challenge of getting people's awareness and getting them to download and use another app on their phone. Of course, now we're in a place where, you know, whether it's Caviar or Postmates or Uber or Lyft or Lime or Bird, you probably have a dozen apps in your phone right now that you use to get things delivered to your home or to access transportation. So we might take another bite at that apple in the future, but for now, our focus has really been how can we build out some of these services that the private sector might not provide on their own.
As a conclusion, what do you have to share to all the cities that are watching your Q&A with me today?
You know, I would say make sure that your management team looks like the city that you serve. Make sure you are taking a very keen focus on the needs of people who may not have access to community engagement or community outreach, people who may not have bank accounts, people who may not have a smartphone that's connected to the internet all the time, older adults, women in particular, and children. Make sure that your team looks like the city that you hope to serve. That, I think, alone will change the conversations that you're having. It will change the problems that you're trying to solve, and it will change the solutions that you're able to bring to the table.
Thank you very much, Seleta, for your time. Hope to see you soon in real life in Paris very soon.
That would be great. And thank you, everybody, for spending such an intense day thinking about some of the biggest challenges that we face together, whether you're on the public side or the private side, transportation, technology, wherever you are. I'm hopeful that we can meet this moment that we're in if we really work together, and it's events like this that allow that to happen.
Thank you very much.